Surrounded by colors. It was a quiet Monday morning when Daniel arrived at the office, ready for another day of project management. His desk, meticulously arranged, reflected his systematic and orderly mindset. Yet despite his efforts to keep everything on track, the chaos around him had become almost unbearable. He felt, more than ever, like he was surrounded by idiots. The day began with a meeting, as usual. Everyone was seated in the cramped conference room. There was Anna, the ever-energetic marketer, who could never sit still. Across from her was Peter, the soft-spoken data analyst who always hesitated before speaking. Next to him sat Claire, the overly optimistic team lead with a penchant for interrupting others, and finally, David, the CEO, who seemed to take every suggestion as a personal attack. Daniel sighed and took his seat. He had read somewhere that people behave the way they did because of their personalities, not because they were inherently stupid. It was an idea he had been mulling over for weeks, ever since a friend recommended a book about understanding different personality types. The book described 4 behavioral archetypes, each represented by a color: red, yellow, green, and blue. Chapter 1. The Reds, Commanders of Chaos. David, the CEO, was the epitome of a red personality. Reds were natural leaders, highly driven, and goal-oriented. They didn't have time for small talk or emotional considerations. They wanted results, and they wanted them now. During the meeting, David leaned forward, his voice dominating the room. "What's the status of the new project? We need it live by the end of the month." Anna tried to chime in, her hands gesturing wildly. "I think we could spice up the campaign a bit. Maybe add some humor." David cut her off. "I don't care about humor. I want numbers. How many leads will this generate?" Daniel winced. Reds often bulldozed over others without realizing it, their impatience masking any attempt at collaboration. The book had warned about this. Reds valued efficiency over harmony. Chapter 2. The Yellows, the Enthusiasts. Anna was undoubtedly a yellow. Yellows were the life of the party, brimming with ideas and enthusiasm. They thrived on creativity, spontaneity, and connection with others. But they often lacked focus, jumping from one idea to the next without a clear plan. "David," Anna continued, ignoring his dismissive tone, "I had this brilliant idea last night. What if we added a video series? Something really fun, like bloopers or behind-the-scenes content. People love that stuff." David frowned, clearly unimpressed. Peter, the data analyst, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Anna's excitement faltered, but only briefly. "Oh, and I spoke to a friend in PR, she says we could get featured in a podcast if we stay on track." "Anna," David snapped. Daniel couldn't help but feel for her. Yellows needed encouragement and freedom to express themselves. The book had emphasized that yellows weren't airheaded, they just operated on a different wavelength. They thrived in environments that valued creativity over rigid structure. Chapter 3. The Greens, the Peacemakers. Peter, sitting quietly in the corner, was as green as they came. Greens were the glue that held teams together. They were supportive, patient, and loyal, but they avoided conflict at all costs. Peter rarely spoke up in meetings, and when he did, it was usually to agree with someone else. I think Anna's idea could work," Peter said hesitantly. "People do like videos." David turned to him, his expression stern. "Fine. How much will it cost?" Peter froze, fumbling for an answer. Greens hated being put on the spot, especially in confrontational situations. Daniel wanted to jump in and rescue him, but he knew it wouldn't help. Reds like David didn't respect interventions, they wanted facts and solutions. Chapter 4. The Blues, the Perfectionists. And then there was Daniel himself. He was a blue, through and through. Blues were analytical, detail-oriented, and methodical. They thrived on structure and hated uncertainty. Daniel had spent hours creating a comprehensive timeline for the project, complete with contingencies for every possible scenario. "Actually," Daniel said, pulling up a spreadsheet on his laptop, "I've calculated the costs for a video campaign. If we allocate 20% of the budget to production, we could." "Too slow," David interrupted. "I need decisions, not spreadsheets." Daniel felt his frustration boiling over. Why couldn't David see the value in planning? Reds were always so impatient, charging ahead without considering the consequences. The book had explained this dynamic perfectly. Blues and Reds often clashed because they approached problems from opposite perspectives. Chapter 5. Learning to Communicate. As the meeting dragged on, Daniel found himself reflecting on the book's key lesson. Understanding others' personality types wasn't just about labeling them. It was about learning to adapt your communication style to meet their needs. Reds needed brevity and decisiveness. Yellows needed enthusiasm and positive reinforcement. Greens needed patience and reassurance. And blues? Well, blues needed time and details. Daniel decided to test this theory. "David," he said, addressing the CEO directly, "if we prioritize Anna's video campaign, we can meet your deadline and potentially exceed our engagement targets. I've outlined 3 options for execution. Would you like the summary, or should I email you the details?" David paused, then nodded. "Give me the summary now. Email the details later." Anna beamed. "I knew you'd like the video idea. Peter relaxed, grateful to be off the hook. For the first time in weeks, the team seemed to be on the same page. Chapter 6. Beyond Idiots. Over the next few months, Daniel continued to apply what he had learned. He began tailoring his approach to each colleague's personality, and the results were transformative. Anna's creativity flourished when given room to brainstorm. Peter became more confident when Daniel supported him privately before meetings. Even David started to soften, appreciating Daniel's ability to provide concise updates without drowning him in details. The office hadn't magically become a utopia, but it no longer felt like a battlefield. Daniel realized that the idiots he had once resented were just people, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. In the end, the lesson was clear: understanding others wasn't about changing them, it was about meeting them where they were. And for Daniel, that was enough.